Yesai Shalom Rastafari Scenes, welcome friends. So, today we're going to be talking about something that is actually from the military, and it's called SEER. It's called Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape from a Rasta Man Perspective. Like Bob Marley, Double Honors, said, the black survivors, and also Rasta Man live up. So this is coming from the perspective of a Rastafari disciple and an Essene, and hopefully a brother of wisdom, in terms of the saying that says, wisdom is my sister, and make wisdom be your guide. Okay, so what I'm going to be talking about now is a specific subject that I actually discovered on one of my many and wonderful long surfing journeys on YouTube. And this is something that is valuable and good for us, even as civilians, and enables us to further successfully and lawfully and legally justifiably serve God and country and our fellow human beings in accordance with divine law, international human rights law, and the Geneva Convention. And with faith, courage, and a just cause, David shall still beat Goliath. Even in the 21st century, with faith, courage, and a just cause, David shall still beat Goliath. Amen. Excerpt from His Imperial Majesty's garden speech. Just look up David versus Goliath. You'll see. We are the winners. We've got the power. Emmanuel. So thank God Almighty, we've been rebooted. And the thing is, what I'm going to talk about now is resisting and successfully overcoming what is called interrogation by any possible enemy unit, whether civilian or anybody, really. Now, first of all, I have to emphasize the fact that based on divine guidance, we always have to be honest towards God and also honest with ourselves. So what I'm presenting is truthful and legal and rightfully in accordance with the law, literally. So, interrogation, as a civilian, you notice immediately when somebody's trying to interrogate you. It could be a casual conversation. It could be a random check, things like that. Now, the way this works is, we have an example from the Talmud, actually. Many examples from the Talmud where the righteous ones and the rabbis, they were questioned sometimes by different, let's say, different units, whether enemy or friendly. And that's the thing. Got to have situational awareness and operate wisely, be circumspectly, operating wisely all the time, even when interacting with friends or anybody, because of the greater link between human communication in any given situation or area or country, or just how the world works in terms of keeping a real high situational overview of things in order to successfully overcome any obstacles and essentially vanquish any enemy, whether foreign or domestic, in accordance with divine law and international human rights law and the Geneva Convention. And so you notice immediately if somebody's trying to interrogate you. Now, this could be a civilian too who's talking to you, and the information and the picture that you provide them with is absolutely essential to your overall safety. Now, the way this works is, as I mentioned, we have examples of this from the Talmud, and that's Ethiopian Hebrew Black Jewish heritage. Big ups, yeah? Read the Talmud, it's good. There's different examples of how when the rabbis were questioned by authorities and things like that, they basically told the truth, because one of the commandments from the Ten Commandments is like, thou shalt not bear false witness, and it goes on. So we're supposed to always tell the truth. That's in accordance with God's law. So, always putting the Almighty first, without a vow, we always have to tell the truth, whether it's with another person or ourselves or anything or anybody, really. We got to always tell the truth. Now, you would think that this would be a disadvantage in terms of the ability to successfully survive, evade, resist, and escape any type of a situation. Actually, it's not, because here's how it works. What you do is, when you're questioned by anybody, and first of all, anyone, anywhere in the world at any given point in time, regardless of race, religion, creed, or national origin, has the right to remain silent when questioned by authorities or anyone, generally speaking, in accordance with human rights law. Read the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It's very important. So first of all, you have the right to remain silent. Now, they say that you should either remain completely silent or provide certain information that is to your tactical advantage for you to achieve your objective. Now, I'm going to explore these two routes now. I mentioned that everyone has the right to remain silent, especially when questioned by authorities. Okay, that can be a good route, but it takes a lot of self-confidence and self-discipline, and you really have to be strong intellectually to actually totally remain silent and just go by that. What I usually do is, if I'm questioned by any type of an authority, so-called, I usually do what anyone in their right mind would do, is I say, hi, hello, how are you? Exchange a few words and just give the basic and the true premise and lay the foundation for the fact that, you know, all humanity are supposed to be brothers, and the Holy Law says, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself, and that's everybody, in terms of demonstrating, showing, and truthfully revealing the fact that you are a benevolent, law-abiding citizen, you know? If somebody says, hi, how are you? You say, good, how about you? And, you know, then after that point, though, if you're questioned by an authority, you could remain silent for the rest and say, I reserve my right to remain silent when there's questions. But generally, the right thing to do, and that's just human nature, is to greet one another, say, hi, how are you doing? Now, there could be situations where you don't even do that. But generally, as a civilian, that's my recommendation, is to acknowledge one another, exchange a few words, and then if questions come up, if somebody starts questioning you, trying to interrogate you, you just say, I'm making use of my, I reserve the right to remain silent in accordance with this and that, human rights law, or whatever law it is. Make sure you know a little bit about what you're quoting. It's an article in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Okay, so that's one route. It's basically exchanging a few words, but then remaining silent in accordance with your right to remain silent. And that is your legal right, and it's completely lawful to do so. Now, that's option number one. That's going to be for the average person who is legally adept, yet it takes a lot of confidence to sort of be, let's say, rock solid in the face of adversity, and to literally just cling to God and cling to a certain principle, like just being completely silent when somebody's talking to you. It's actually, it's a little awkward. It can be done, but I would say the first route is usually the best route. Greet one another, exchange a few words, and then resist any interrogation in accordance with international law and the various laws of your national constitutions, and other laws that exist in the area where you're operating lawfully, legally, right? Seek peace and pursue it, okay? And sometimes it's just got to be peace through superior firepower. And so that's route number one. Route number two is this. And this is the route that you can use if you're thinking ahead, and you have to think ahead to be able to do this, because it has to be done correctly. So route number two, for any potential situation where there's an attempt to interrogate you or gain information about you on behalf of a different individual. In other words, route number two to resisting interrogation is this. And this is based on something I saw from the military. Royal salute. Thank you all for your service. Is providing, basically providing the right information to paint a certain picture that leads to a successful outcome for yourself, in order so that you resist the interrogation and escape, essentially. Now, how this is done is as follows. Listen, let's say you're being questioned. So what you do, though, and now here's the thing, though, because of divine responsibility, right, and divine accountability, in terms of the necessity to follow God's law and to be legit, you always have to tell the truth. You should. So what I'm doing now is I'm showing, this is example number two, and the way this works is, when questioned by somebody, whether civilian, law enforcement, whoever and whatever, any human being, route number two is exchange a few words, providing the basic foundation for a peaceful human coexistence. Like it says in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, it says, basically all men are brothers and should be brotherly towards one another, okay? Generally speaking. Now, that can vary from country to country, but generally as a civilian interacting with law enforcement or other civilians, you should sort of go route number two, and that is basically, hi, how are you doing? Good. How about you? And just establish the very fact that you're a peaceful, positive, benevolent person that is not a threat. Because a human being, look, if I meet somebody in the woods and I don't say anything, and I just kind of, it's just human nature to kind of establish, oh, hi, how are you? Or what's what, like kind of a greeting of peace, yeah? Just that basic salute. That makes for a peaceful foundation. That does a lot. I'm the type of person, if I was, even if I was a police officer, I would literally be the type of person who would show up on the crime scene and say, hi, how are you doing? And then because you have to establish peaceful, human, cooperative, interactive capability, generally speaking. That doesn't always apply, but generally as a civilian. So this is route number two. So what happens is, what you do is you provide a certain amount of information that is carefully grafted to paint a certain picture and to quote unquote satisfy the inquisitive drive of the human being who is questioning you. Now this works as follows. I'm going to explain this. And this has to be, because of like religious duty, it has to be legit. The way you do this legitimately is, if somebody asks me, so where did you come from? And I say, well, I came up this trail, I came from there. First of all, silence is golden, speaking is silver. We provide a little bit of information that pieces together a certain scenario that is as simple as possible and that's legitimate and that's actually true, because I just came up this trail. So all I'm doing is recounting a little bit of what happened according to the truth. And what this does, though, is, first of all, it calms your conscience because you're telling the truth. Second of all, what it does is it makes it so that you actually are able, based on the human nature and behavior of this animal nature, this carbon-based life form, so that you're capable to actually go through this skit, to have this chat, and to actually basically pull it off successfully. Because, see, if you have doubts, then it isn't going to work. So if I know I'm telling the truth, I came up that trail yesterday. I got here 15 minutes ago. I'm telling the truth. It actually happened. I'm presenting a little bit of what happened truthfully. And so this person then is going, oh, okay. And then if they ask me where I'm going, if I care to, I can say, well, I'm doing this, I'm hiking this trail. Okay, all right. So he's a hiker. Okay, legit. So what you have to pay attention to this. You have to keep it as simple as possible, provide as little information as possible. And now here's the thing, there's a thing called NLP. What I've done, I've actually done this. I was once in a situation, in an awkward situation. I was visiting a friend. I'm going to give you an example of how this works. I was visiting a friend, and this good friend, he basically smoked too much. And this was a very interesting experience. He basically smoked too much. After a couple of days, things started going south at his house and amongst him and his friends and family. And I was sort of there. I was observing this, trying to be a good friend and to help the fellow to just cope and to survive. You know, apparently he had what was called what they call he overdosed on cannabis. So sure enough, before you know it, there's all these people at the house, and there's literally a person there who's somebody who works with people who had drug-induced psychoses, and she's there. I'm in my room, and this lady, who's a friend but also a doctor for this fellow, comes up to my room, right? And basically, you know, kind of starts asking me, like, you know, who I am, where I'm from, what I'm doing, right? And this was a civilian, but the link between this civilian and so-called law enforcement is very, very, very small. So I was extremely careful about what I said, and she asked me things like, do I smoke? I said, no, I don't smoke. You know why that's true? Because we as Rastafari, we don't smoke, we burn. But I didn't say that. I could have. Now, based on how gung-ho and how kosher-driven you are, you can also just obliterate the enemy too. I could have said, yeah, we burn, and stuff like that. I could have, but in that situation, I decided to operate in stealth mode and to successfully basically survive, evade, resist, and escape this situation, because it easily could have gotten serious. This was a person who was literally like a doctor tending to this fellow who's a friend, and I'm trying to make sure that I stay free and safe. So what I did, she asked me questions, right? She started asking me questions like, do I smoke? And don't smoke with him, whatever you do, if you do, you know, blah, 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 and all these threats and stuff. And boy, I had to keep a cool head through that talk. And I said, no, I don't smoke. And it was true, we don't smoke, we burn. See? So then when we were talking, there's another thing, and this is for the real called, chosen, and faithful Rastafari and the righteous ones to utilize this. There's a way to actually interact with somebody eye to eye in a conversation, regardless of who they are, using certain techniques that have to do with wisdom, how the universe works, and how certain natural energies and things that are in the universe work. In other words, they say that, like, if somebody looks to the left, you know, they're thinking, but if they look to the right, they're all this stuff they call NLP. Well, there's a way to use what's called NLP in a way that actually is 100% guaranteed to work. And I'm going to reveal something at this point that is true. I've done it. I've used it time and time again. Whether it's approaching a human being, whether it's speaking to somebody, or actually doing anything, for some reason, in nature, in the universe, there's a thing that I call, and that we call, the high right angle. Now, this has to do with the way that the human brain is set up. They say that the left side of the human brain, generally, if somebody's right-handed, their left side is their logical side, and their right side is their sympathetical, emotional side. But if a person is left-handed, and that's very rare, then it's the opposite. But what's actually going on is, if you talk to somebody and you come up to them on their right side, it will be a different interaction than if you come up to them on their left side. So this is based on, there's a positive energy curve within the universe. You can see that in spiral galaxies. You can see that in the way that things move instinctively. And in interactions with other human beings, there's this thing called a high right angle. It's a counterclockwise rotation. Now, me as a human being, right, I'm moving, right? I'm a moving object. So if I move and approach people and approach any type of thing with a high right angle, a counterclockwise route of movement, there's some kind of a natural, energetic, universal type of a way that the energy and that physical matter in the universe moves, that sort of is propellant and positively supportive. So, okay, picture this: you're gonna ask somebody for a favor. Now, and I've noticed this too. Do you know what cats do when they see prey? I've seen this done. They say that what a cat does. Picture a cat here and a mouse up here, right? The cat sees the mouse. What the cat actually does is a certain maneuver to approach and to attack and to devour the prey. The same thing could be said of human beings who are intelligent and know how the universe works. Now, obviously, most people are right-handed. Now, if you engage somebody, if you walk up to somebody, if you talk to somebody, if you're positioned, if you initiate contact with any human coming from a counterclockwise approach on a high right angle, 99.9% of the time, it's gonna be a success, whatever it is. I've done this before. I've done this in situations where I needed help. I applied this principle. I approached a fellow, and I offered to sell him something that I had because I needed a bus ticket. Well, sure enough, he actually just gave me $30 or something. So there's a way to move, physically move, that gives you a superior force advantage based on how some kind of a natural law in the universe works, where things are going counterclockwise. So let me put it to you this way. If I am walking through an area and I see people or somebody or something stationed somewhere, if I see enemy units stationed somewhere, if I come in, if I pass if I engage, if I actually, even if I'm just walking through as a civilian, you might be in town sometimes, and in town, there may be what they call cops. Hopefully good ones. And so you're thinking, okay, am I going to stop? Are you going to stop walking? You're walking straight. You see cops standing on the corner somewhere. Are you going to walk straight and then stop and turn around and walk backwards because you're trying to remain invisible for whatever legit reasons? Actually, what you can do is, if you pass on the right side of them, if you pass on the right side of any person, if you pass on the right side with a counterclockwise approach toward an other human, generally things work out very positively. 9 times out of 10, I've observed this. There's some kind of a natural law in the universe. It has to do with how energy moves. It could also be because my perspective is right brain, emotional, creative, and I'm right-handed, so I'm going to go like this. I'm going to go like this. Go in like this, right? Actually, though, there's something about it that works. Now, this could be in the form of, I've done this. Let's say you need something legit. You go up to a person. So you're walking towards a person, or there's a person standing somewhere. Are you going to come in back of them and show up on their left side? No. You're going to go and approach them with a counterclockwise high right angle coming from the northeast. There's a force, there's a movement of energy coming from a northeastern corner of, like, if you had a compass or a map in front of you, you've got north, south, west, and northeast. Up here, coming from this way, this way, this way. There's some kind of a positively supporting current of energy and movement of things within creation that works. So you're going to do that. It'll work. Now, you can do this. You can try this. Try this out. Next time you talk to somebody new and you approach them geographically, geometrically, objectively in a room, let's say there's somebody standing somewhere. I need to go up to them and ask them something. You come up on a high right angle, approaching their right side. This works. Okay, so this is route number 2, using to resist and successfully overcome an interrogation of any kind, whether civilian or law enforcement or military or whatever. This is route number 2, right? Basic exchange of greetings. How are you? And then painting and providing certain true information that is true, keeping it as simple as possible, and painting a certain picture. You're presenting them with a certain you're painting a picture for them and giving it to them, but it has to be painted wisely. So if somebody, like I said, if somebody asks me, where are you from? I'm from, you tell the truth. I'm from there. Okay. Or where are you coming from? I came up the trail, just came up here. Okay, just got here. Okay, I see. Oh, so we just arrived. Okay. Where are you going? Well, actually, I'm headed towards, I'm going to go do some shopping, headed up the hill to, what's the name of that place? I forget. You see? Now, this is especially handy when you're in a foreign country, and yeah, almost everybody speaks English, but if you say things like, I can't remember the name of that, or what's the name of that? What's it called? See, you're using every possible legitimate cover to further your operation and successfully achieve your objective using the truth. So you're actually truthful. Now this is cool. Now listen, this may seem crafty and like overly clever, but it's actually legitimate because it's the truth. If somebody asks me where you come from, so I came from there. I just got here. Oh, okay. Well, where are you going? Headed here. Okay, I told the truth. I actually did what I said in the past. It's actually true. So you have to paint and present a certain picture that's very simple, that satisfies the inquisitive nature of whoever is trying to or interrogating you. But now the way that you pull this off completely and you actually follow through on this and you actually manage to finish that conversation successfully and walk away free is by actually doing what I said. You're actually telling the truth, so your conscience is calm. You know that you're actually telling the truth, and you are, but you're presenting about 1% of 100% of what's going on, but you're in a calm position where you're able to actually it's like this, you're really doing it. Now, another thing, I'm going to go to this example of this lady again who was asking me when this fellow had a psychosis. This lady came up to me, started asking me, do you smoke? Don't smoke with him, or I'm going to call and all this stuff. I said, no, I don't smoke. Of course not. And she said, had you ever heard of a psychosis? I said, I think I saw that on the news. Look at me. I think I saw that on the news, but well, what is that? Oh, so now we're building sympathy. Tell me about it. What is that? Oh, really? Okay. Got to look out for that. Yeah. Okay. Wow. So what you're doing is you're having a successful conversation. Now, another thing, when you're face to face with somebody, if this person is intelligent enough, listen, I have yet to meet anybody who's actually intelligent enough to literally be able to see through me. There's probably not one person, listen folks, this is for real. There is probably not one single person on the face of this earth who can actually see through me, who can actually see right through me. Maybe the Creator, blessed be He, and maybe some of the Habarim, maybe. Possibly, actually. But what I'm saying is that if you're talking to somebody face to face, there's, I believe this. She asked me, do you smoke? Just an example. This may seem like a simple thing, but the technique, what I'm explaining, is something that you can use for small or great things to successfully resist interrogation and escape the situation. Like this lady asked me, she's looking at me like this, and she's like, do you smoke? And I'm like, no. So a lady asked, do you smoke? And I'm like, no. So it's like, I believe what I'm saying is true, so I'm able to actually, on the physical level, my face, right? My entire presentation, what we're looking at each other, my mimic, my micro expressions, everything is completely and totally legit. So this person actually totally believes what I'm saying, because I am actually sort of like, I'm telling the truth, and I actually can back that up with everything that I am, so that it's like I'm actually telling the truth and this is real. So it's like you're acting, but you're acting truthfully, and that is enough to essentially deter and send off pretty much anybody who interrogates you. Now, is there a third route? Route number 3 is this. How to resist interrogation and successfully escape. Okay, I would say beyond the scenario of successfully resisting interrogation and escaping, we should go back to the beginnings. First of all, just roam free all the time. My first advice is, in other words, don't even let it get that far. Just keep going. Now, there's a way to go, and I've done this. I'm doing it right now. There's a way to go through life where you are literally able to just run free, roam free, and actually move freely, have complete freedom of movement permanently. What it takes is a little bit of discipline. You have to pay attention to the cycles of life. You have to move wisely and make certain movements at certain times that will be supported by the universal timing of how everything works. Now, this is actually possible. So what I'm saying is option number 3, how to resist interrogation, is to completely escape in the first place. Now, that can be done. It has to be done you really have to have, you got to be, you got to be in gear to do that. You got to have your, you have to have your gear squared away. You got to be mobile. You really got to be up and running to do that, but you can do that. I've managed to successfully evade, resist, and escape from various enemies and enemy forces considerably, successfully. So option 3 is just escape and keep on escaping. It's possible. It works. So just to recap, survival, evasion, resistance, and escape from a Rastaman perspective. Option 1, resisting interrogation, exchange a few greetings, provide a platform for peaceful interaction, and then don't answer questions based on your right to remain silent. Option 2, greet each other, ask how you're doing, then paint a certain picture, put things together truthfully, simply. And option number 3 is just escape and escape and escape and escape and keep on escaping. And Jah will make a way for you to escape. I know so, and I've done it. I'm doing it right now. Hallelujah, Rastafari. Hazaku Baruch, Am Yisrael Hai, Netzach Yehuda, Harut Zion. And keep it kosher, keep it itel.